You're not lost. I know it feels like you are. I know you've been wandering through life wondering if you took a wrong turn somewhere, wondering if you missed your calling, wondering if everyone else got a manual for life that you somehow never received. But what if I told you that what feels like being lost is actually the universe's way of redirecting you toward your true path? Carl Jung spent his entire career studying what he called synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem to guide us toward our destiny. He discovered that what we perceive as chaos, confusion, and being off track is often the psyche's way of breaking us free from paths that were never truly ours to begin with. Think about it. Every time you've felt lost, every time you've questioned your direction, every time you've experienced what felt like failure or setback, what happened next? If you look back honestly, you'll probably notice that those periods of confusion were followed by clarity. Those moments of breakdown preceded breakthrough. Those times when you felt most disconnected from your path were actually when you were being prepared for a completely different journey. Today, I want to show you something that will change how you see every difficult period in your life. We're going to explore Jung's understanding of what he called the process of individuation, the soul's journey toward becoming who you were always meant to be. And spoiler alert, this journey never looks like what you think it should look like. Because here's what Jung discovered. The universe doesn't operate according to your timeline or your expectations. It operates according to a deeper intelligence, a wisdom that sees the bigger picture of your life's purpose. And sometimes, to get you where you need to go, it has to take you through territories that feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and completely wrong. You see, most of us are walking around with someone else's definition of success programmed into our unconscious. Your parents' dreams for you, society's expectations, the career path that looks good on paper but feels empty in your soul. Jung called this living from the persona, the mask we wear to fit in and gain approval, rather than from our authentic self. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, will not let you settle for a life that's too small for your soul. It will create circumstances that force you to question everything you thought you wanted. It will remove opportunities that seemed perfect but weren't aligned with your true nature. It will make you uncomfortable in situations that once felt safe because safety was keeping you small. This is why feeling lost is not a problem to be solved. It's a sacred process to be honored. Jung understood that periods of confusion and uncertainty are actually incubation periods, times when your psyche is reorganizing itself, when your soul is preparing for a new level of expression, when the universe is clearing space for something more authentic to emerge. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to rush through the discomfort. They try to force clarity before it's ready to emerge. They try to make things happen on their timeline rather than trusting the divine timing of their own becoming. And in doing so, they actually resist the very process that's trying to guide them home to themselves. Jung discovered that the soul has its own intelligence, its own timing, its own way of moving us toward our destiny. He called this the self with a capital S, the part of us that knows why we're here and what we came to do, even when our conscious mind is completely clueless. The first thing you need to understand is that feeling lost is often a sign that you're ready for a quantum leap in your evolution. Your soul has outgrown the container of your current life, and something new is trying to be born through you. But birth is messy. Birth is uncomfortable. Birth requires you to leave the safety of what you've known and trust in something you can't yet see. Think about every major transition in your life. Did any of them happen smoothly, according to plan, in a way that felt controlled and predictable? Probably not. Real transformation, the kind that actually changes the trajectory of your life, almost always begins with a period of dissolution, confusion, and feeling like you don't know which way is up. Jung called this the nigredo phase of transformation, the dark night of the soul where everything you thought you knew about yourself and your life gets called into question. It's the cosmic composting process where old versions of yourself have to die so that new versions can be born. And during this phase, it's completely normal to feel like you're failing, like you're behind, like everyone else has it figured out except you. But what if I told you that feeling behind is actually evidence that you're right on time? What if the confusion you're experiencing is actually your soul's GPS recalculating the route to your destiny? The second insight Jung discovered is that the universe often uses what appears to be obstacles and setbacks to redirect us toward opportunities that are actually more aligned with our true nature. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the plan that fell through, the door that closed in your face. What if all of these weren't punishments or signs that you're on the wrong track? What if they were course corrections, divine interventions designed to steer you away from paths that would have kept you small and toward paths that will help you become who you're truly meant to be? I know this is hard to believe when you're in the middle of it. When you're facing rejection, when things aren't working out the way you planned, when every door seems to be closing, it doesn't feel like divine guidance. It feels like cosmic punishment. It feels like the universe is working against you rather than for you. But Jung understood something profound about how transformation actually works. He realized that the psyche will create whatever circumstances are necessary to force us out of our comfort zone and into our growth zones. And sometimes that means creating experiences that feel like failures, losses, or wrong turns. This is because growth requires disruption. Evolution requires leaving behind what's familiar. Becoming who you're meant to be requires letting go of who you think you should be. And the ego, that part of us that wants to stay safe and in control, will never voluntarily choose the unknown. It has to be guided, sometimes even forced, into new territories. So, when life feels chaotic, when you can't see the path ahead, when everything you've built seems to be falling apart, instead of panicking, try asking a different question. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Try, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, how do I get back to where I was? Try, where is this trying to take me? Jung discovered that the unconscious is always working on our behalf, always moving us toward greater wholeness, greater authenticity, greater alignment with our true purpose. But it doesn't operate according to the logic of the conscious mind. It operates according to the wisdom of the soul, which sees patterns and possibilities that our limited perspective can't perceive. The third thing Jung understood is that what we call being lost is often actually a process of being found. Not found by returning to something familiar, but found by discovering aspects of yourself that have been waiting in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Every confusion contains a revelation. Every crisis contains an opportunity. Every breakdown contains the seeds of a breakthrough. But you have to be willing to stay present to the process, rather than trying to escape it. You have to be willing to trust that even when you can't see where you're going, you're being guided by an intelligence greater than your own understanding. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up all agency in your life. It means learning to dance between effort and surrender, between taking inspired action and trusting divine timing. It means developing what Jung called active imagination, the ability to dialogue with the unconscious forces that are shaping your destiny. Maybe you're in a career transition and you don't know what comes next. Maybe you're ending a relationship and you're terrified of being alone. Maybe you're facing a health challenge that's forcing you to reevaluate everything. Maybe you're experiencing a spiritual awakening that's turned your worldview upside down. Whatever form your lostness is taking, I want you to consider the possibility that you're not actually lost at all. You're in a state of sacred unknowing, a liminal space between who you were and who you're becoming. And this space, uncomfortable as it is actually the most fertile ground for transformation. Jung believed that every soul comes into this life with what he called a unique destiny, a specific contribution to make, a particular way of expressing the divine through human experience. But discovering this destiny isn't a linear process. It's not something you figure out through analysis or planning. It's something that reveals itself through living, through following the breadcrumbs of your curiosity, through paying attention to what makes you come alive. And sometimes, to discover what you're truly meant to do, you have to first discover what you're not meant to do. Sometimes, to find your authentic path, you have to walk down several inauthentic ones first. Sometimes, to recognize your true calling, you have to experience the emptiness of pursuing someone else's dream. This is why Jung said that the greatest tragedy is not that we fail to achieve our goals, but that we achieve goals that were never truly ours to begin with. The universe, in its infinite compassion, will not let you waste your life pursuing a destiny that belongs to someone else. It will create friction, resistance, and redirection until you find the path that actually fits your soul. The fourth insight is that being redirected by the universe often looks like doors closing, opportunities disappearing, and plans falling apart. But Jung understood that the psyche is incredibly intelligent in how it orchestrates these apparent setbacks. What looks like an ending is often actually a beginning. What feels like rejection is often actually protection. What appears to be a detour is often actually a shortcut to where you need to be. Think about the times in your life when something you really wanted didn't work out, and later you realized it was the best thing that could have happened. The relationship that ended before you got too deep. The job you didn't get that led you to something better. The failure that taught you lessons you never could have learned through success. Jung called this the compensatory function of the unconscious, the way our psyche automatically corrects course when we're heading in directions that aren't aligned with our authentic nature. It's like having an internal GPS that's constantly recalculating the route to your highest good, even when you can't see the destination. But here's the thing about divine redirection. It rarely feels divine in the moment. It feels confusing, frustrating, scary. It feels like everything is falling apart. It feels like you're moving backwards instead of forwards. And that's exactly why so many people resist it, fight it, try to force their old plans to work, even when the universe is clearly trying to guide them somewhere else. Learning to trust the redirection process requires developing what Jung called a relationship with the self, that deeper part of you that knows things your conscious mind doesn't know. It requires cultivating faith in an intelligence greater than your own understanding. It requires believing that even when you can't see the path, you're being guided toward your highest good. This doesn't mean you should become passive and wait for life to happen to you. It means learning to recognize when you're swimming upstream against the current of your destiny, and when you're flowing with the river of your life's natural direction. It means developing the sensitivity to feel when something is aligned versus when it's forced. And here's something beautiful that Jung discovered. When you stop fighting the redirection and start flowing with it, when you stop trying to control the process and start trusting it, life becomes magical. Synchronicities start showing up everywhere. The right people appear at the right time. Opportunities open up that you never could have imagined. Resources become available that seemed impossible before. This is because when you align with your authentic path, when you stop forcing and start flowing, you tap into what Jung called the transcendent function, the bridge between conscious intention and unconscious wisdom. You become a co-creator with the universe rather than a victim of circumstances. If you're someone who's learning to trust this process of divine redirection, who's beginning to see the intelligence behind life's apparent chaos, then you're part of a community of conscious co-creators who understand that growth requires going through the unknown. Subscribe to continue exploring how to navigate life's transitions with wisdom and trust, because what I share here goes beyond surface-level inspiration to give you practical tools for dancing with the mystery of your own becoming. The fifth thing Jung understood is that the universe's redirection often comes through what he called numinous experiences, moments when something greater than yourself breaks through into your ordinary awareness and shows you a glimpse of your true path. These might be dreams that feel more real than waking life, encounters with strangers who say exactly what you need to hear, books that fall off shelves and land open to the perfect page, signs and symbols that seem to be speaking directly to your soul. Most people dismiss these experiences as coincidence, but Jung recognized them as communications from the collective unconscious, messages from the deeper intelligence that orchestrates our lives. He understood that when we're in periods of transition and uncertainty, we become more permeable to these forms of guidance. The key is learning to recognize and trust these subtle communications rather than dismissing them as wishful thinking or magical thinking. Jung believed that the rational mind, while useful, is not equipped to navigate the deeper mysteries of human existence. For that, we need what he called symbolic thinking, the ability to read the language of the soul. Maybe you've been having recurring dreams about water, and then you find yourself drawn to a career in healing. Maybe you keep seeing the same number sequence everywhere, and it corresponds to an important date in your future. Maybe you feel inexplicably called to a certain place, and when you go there, you meet someone who changes your life. These aren't accidents, they're breadcrumbs on the path to your destiny. But you have to be willing to follow them even when they don't make logical sense, even when you can't see where they're leading, even when other people think you're crazy for paying attention to such things. Jung discovered that the people who live the most fulfilling lives, who make the greatest contributions to the world, who seem to be in the right place at the right time, are usually the ones who have learned to read these subtle signs and trust this inner guidance system. But here's what's important to understand. Trusting the universe's redirection doesn't mean you should quit your job tomorrow because you had a dream about being an artist. It doesn't mean you should end your marriage because you feel called to travel the world. It means learning to discern between ego impulses and soul calling, between fantasy and authentic guidance. Real divine guidance usually doesn't ask you to destroy your life overnight. It usually invites you to make small, incremental changes that gradually align you with your authentic path. It usually comes with a sense of rightness, of coming home to yourself, rather than drama or chaos. The sixth insight is that the universe's redirection process often involves what Jung called the dissolution of the ego, the temporary dismantling of the identity you've constructed so that a more authentic self can emerge. This is why periods of feeling lost often coincide with identity crises, with questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself and what you wanted. You might find yourself saying things like, "I don't know who I am anymore," or "I don't recognize my own life," or "I feel like I'm becoming a completely different person." And you are. That's exactly what's supposed to be happening. The old version of you, the one that was living according to other people's expectations or limiting beliefs, is dissolving so that the real you can emerge. This process can be terrifying because the ego wants to maintain continuity, consistency, a sense of solid identity. But Jung understood that real growth requires periods of dissolution, times when the boundaries of who you think you are become fluid and permeable to new possibilities. During these times, it's important to remember that feeling confused about your identity doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means you're evolving. It means you're shedding skins that no longer fit. It means you're being prepared for a new level of self-expression. Jung also discovered that these periods of redirection often activate what he called the inner opposites, contradictory aspects of your personality that have been suppressed or underdeveloped. Maybe you've always been the responsible one, and suddenly you feel called to be more spontaneous. Maybe you've always been the helper, and now you're learning to receive. Maybe you've always been logical, and now you're discovering your intuitive side. These aren't signs that you're losing yourself. They're signs that you're finding the fullness of yourself, integrating aspects of your nature that were previously unconscious. Jung called this the process of individuation, becoming a whole, integrated human being, rather than a partial, one-sided version of yourself. The redirection process is actually the universe's way of helping you reclaim all the parts of yourself that got lost along the way, all the dreams you abandoned because they seemed impractical, all the aspects of your personality you suppressed because they didn't fit your family's expectations, all the gifts you never developed because you were too busy trying to be who you thought you should be. So when you feel lost, when you don't recognize yourself, when everything seems to be changing, try to remember that you're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself. You're not being destroyed. You're being reborn. You're not off track. You're being guided onto your real track, the one that was always meant to be yours. The seventh and final insight is that the universe's redirection always leads to what Jung called the encounter with the self, the discovery of your authentic purpose, and the unique contribution you came here to make. But this encounter rarely happens in the way you expect or on the timeline you prefer. Your true calling might not look like the career you imagined. Your authentic path might not unfold in the sequence you planned. Your real contribution might not take the form you thought it would. But when you finally align with it, when you stop fighting the current and start flowing with it, you'll know. There will be a sense of coming home, of everything clicking into place, of finally being who you were always meant to be. Jung believed that every person has what he called a unique myth, a story that their soul is trying to live out through their human experience. But discovering this myth requires trusting the process of becoming, trusting that even when you can't see the plot, even when the story seems to make no sense, even when you feel like you're wandering in the wilderness, you're actually being authored by a wisdom greater than your own understanding. The periods of feeling lost, the times when nothing makes sense, the phases when everything seems to be falling apart, these aren't detours from your path. They are your path. They are the necessary passages through the unknown that lead to the discovery of who you really are and what you're really here to do. So the next time you feel lost, the next time you question whether you're on the right track, the next time you wonder if the universe has forgotten about you, remember this: you are exactly where you need to be. You are being guided even when you can't feel the guidance. You are being redirected even when it feels like chaos. You are being prepared for something beautiful even when all you can see is confusion. Your lostness is not a mistake. It's a sacred process. Your confusion is not a problem. It's a prelude to clarity. Your uncertainty is not evidence that you're off track. It's evidence that you're being guided onto a track that's more authentic, more aligned, more true to who you really are. Trust the redirection. Trust the process. Trust that you are being guided by a love and intelligence that sees the bigger picture of your life's purpose. You're not lost. You're being found. You're not off course. You're being guided onto your true course. You're not behind. You're right on time for the life that's waiting to be born through you. The universe hasn't forgotten about you. It's been preparing something specifically for you, something that requires you to become exactly who you're becoming through this process of apparent lostness. Trust it. Trust yourself. Trust that your confusion is actually clarity in disguise, and your uncertainty is actually the universe's way of creating space for magic to unfold in your life.